right. Well, then we began the main show, and of course, we opened up hot and heavy.
Let me check my notes. It's been 5 hours ago that show started. I'm just trying to remember what was on first after that marathon. Oh, of course. It was none other than Cage and Page. One of the pages and one of the cages. They did have a big crowd, I will say that. And very few of them were Marin Wasks. Very few of them were wearing masks. And I'm like, and those people, okay, if they got there an hour early, and then you said there was a pre-show, and this fucking fiasco lasted 4 hours, and the last half of it they had to watch on the screen until the closing seconds. Do you think just to see this, they go out and jam themselves in on a bunch of people slobbering over everybody, risk getting deadly illnesses, and sit there for 6 hours until their asses go to sleep to see this show? Well, and they were excited at the beginning, I'll tell you that.
Well, two things. One, we've talked about the problems with using the honor system to trust whether or not people have been vaccinated or not. But the other thing is, because places and states are now rolling back the restrictions and the mandates on the mask, you're getting to the point now where if you do wear a mask indoors in one of these places, people think you weren't vaccinated.
Well, I intend to continue to wear a mask from now in public, from now on until the end of time, because I'd rather people think anything of me than think that I'm a fucking Republican. So at least if I'm wearing a mask, and I'm getting my second shot next week, but if I'm wearing a mask, people know that I'm not a Republican, and that's the most important thing to me in the world. Anyway, so back to Cage and Page. Brian, I know I would have noticed this. They're in Daly's place. It's an open air arena or amphitheater or whatever the case, but this is the first time that I've seen daylight actually shining into the ring and fucking up the lighting. How have they avoided that on Dynamite up until now?
Well, later in the year, at this point in May, the sun is staying out a little bit later.
Last week, Dynamite was on at 8 o'clock Eastern time.
Well, we've seen it where it isn't as dark as it gets, and I will say the Riho Serena Deeb match was completely in daylight.
I have not seen shadows and people on the other side of the ring shielding their eyes and sunlight hitting and making the light in the ring uneven. That's very odd. I didn't see it last year. We had a summer last year, didn't we?
I think so.
Go back and look at this first match and tell me how the sun came in at an odd angle that we have never seen before at 8 o'clock Eastern in Florida. Anyway, they jumped each other and started a fight and went to the floor forever while the referee didn't do anything. And then they got back in the ring. This will be a common theme tonight. Adam Page takes a great shoot off into the turnbuckle. Did you see the weird kind of half armor, half melted Terminator outfit that Brian Cage came out in that he could barely get off once that he tried to start taking it off?
Usually it's good to have the heels wear really cool outfits to come out for the match. What's a big deal? I guess is Double or Nothing their big event, or is All Out their big event? Is this their big event every year, like their WrestleMania?
No, that's All Out, because the first one was All In, and then it was All Out. Well, wait a minute. It was All In, All Out, then Double or Nothing, and then this is the second Double or Nothing.
No, I think it was All In, then Double or Nothing, and then All Out was the 1 year anniversary of All In, but Double or Nothing was before that, the original one.
Well, strange as it may seem, they give these ball players strange names these days. Now, you got who's on first, what's on second, I don't know's on third. Tomorrow's pitching, today's catching. I don't give a damn. Oh, he's our shortstop. Anyway.
You know who's on the bench?
Who?
Khan!
All right, so Brian Cage at one point did a Samoan drop and landed right on top of Page. It was the stiffest Samoan drop I've ever seen, and Page no-sold it and cradled him because that was the spot. I will say again, still, Adam Page, what a fucking natural talent he has, and his size, the way he can move, When he was a rookie, he had just, I think 2012, we had him a couple of times in Ring of Honor. I said, boy, he looks good. He's going to be great. He was probably, I think, 18 years old then or whatever. If he'd had a year or two in OVW or in any good training group, well, I guess there is no other good but if he had a year or two in OVW with Rip Rogers and learning how to work, he'd be one of the best in the business. The only problem is I think he's been with these fucking indie guys for so long that it's giving him bad habits. He does everything great, but some of the things he does don't make a lot of sense, or it's just the bad habits are starting to bleed over to the good talent.
The guy's been wrestling for years. Do you really think someone like Rip Rogers or any of the high-end trainers could change him this far?
No, I'm saying if he had.
Okay.
Not now. Well, now he thinks he's too good to go to wrestling school. So the cause is lost at this point. But if he had started out in one of the territories, learning from the veterans, or at a place like OVW and get trained by Rip and some of the guys that already knew the mental part of wrestling, he'd be one of the best in the business. But as it was, he did his moonsault off the top rope to the floor again in an opening pay-per-view match that nobody's going to remember, risked breaking his legs, and then tossed Cage in and didn't even cover him, try to beat him with that thing. He went back to the top, and Cage was on offense again before Page could even come off. So the moonsault meant nothing, but it risked breaking both his fucking legs. It was a modern match, a lot of moves back and forth. It wasn't silly or stupid. And right as I'm going by my notes, right as I wrote that, as I write that, Cage gave fucking Page a vertical suplex on the ramp and didn't go for a pin. Put Page on the top rope and gave him some big sumping bump off the top rope and got a 2 count. So, as I wrote, but not silly or stupid, let me cross off stupid. It wasn't silly, but that was a stupid bump. Cage went for the buckshot lariat that Page normally uses, but he stumbled. I think he probably would have stumbled anyway, but he fucking stumbled on purpose because Page was going to counter it. Brian, what the? This fucking giant, jacked up bodybuilder, it looks like he weighs 300 pounds, flipped over the top and landed on his feet in the ring just like Adam Page does for his buckshot. Which I refer back to everybody to when Muta was doing the moonsault, and everybody thought it was the coolest move in the world. And then the girls started doing the moonsault. And then Vader, 400-pound man, started doing the moonsault. And then Terry Funk, 50-something-year-old man, did the moonsault. And then you had started having midgets matches where they're doing the moonsault. And then nobody gives a fuck about the moonsault. Why, even if he can, why would Cage do that? And why would Page want him to, even if he's going to foil it? It's a fucking impressive-looking move. This fucking muscle man does not need to do it. He did every other move he's ever known in his fucking life in this match. Anyway, Page foils it with an F5 and gets a 2 count. Now, tell me if this happened to you. About that time that had taken place, suddenly the video started speeding up like it was playing on 2 times speed. It would speed up, stop, speed up, stop, speed up, stop, and the Spanish announcing came in instead of the English. Did that happen to you?
Not that I recall, no.
Were you watching this on actual pay-per-view or some illegal streaming means?
It was illegal streaming means. I was doing it on BR Live.
Okay, well, on the pay-per-view, all of a sudden the videos speeding up and slowing down, and we got the Spanish announcers. And I knew it was the Spanish announcers because they're speaking fucking Spanish. So somehow Cage, it was hard to watch, but he hit 4 or 5 big bumps on Page in a row. And then Hook and Starks come out. Hook and Starks. Sounds like a fucking law firm. they slide a chair in the ring, but Cage slides it back out because he doesn't want to cheat and win that way. And Page hits his buckshot lariat, 1, 2, 3. And then the English announcers come back and Team Taz is pissed off at this, and Cage walks off on Team Taz. So now they're going to make this fucking... It's easier for a guy like Brian Cage to be a heel because he can be in a group and he can wander around and do his moves and somebody else can think. But to make this guy a babyface when he has no idea what the fuck he's doing is ridiculous to me at this point. And also, what heel is going to be able to beat up Brian Cage and all their fucking heels are goddamn as minute as their baby faces practically.
Well, in Team Taz, you at least have Powerhouse Hobbs, who has some size, but Ricky Starks can't wrestle in a while. We've never seen Hook do anything. Hook's never wrestled.
Oh, no, we have. Well, we've seen him do something.
But he wasn't good at that. That was just an attack. He wasn't good at that. Yeah. We've never seen him actually work a match.
If he can't fucking punch and kick, what do you think the match is going to look like?
If he hadn't walked out of the Nightmare Factory with his dad for that Taz-Cody feud that went nowhere, do you think he would have joined QT Marshall's factory, or would he have stayed with the Cody Rhodes Nightmare family? Young Hook. Exactly.
That question you asked was just a bunch of discombobulated words put together as far as...
And that's AEW, and that's AEW in a nutshell. I think Brian Cage could be good as a babyface because he wrestles like a babyface mostly. So I could see the fans there enjoying it. Who he works with is another thing, but... You know, hey, maybe down the road, him and Miro, we'll see. However, we just said it on The Experience. It's been maybe a month and a half. The Brian Cage babyface turn, that still isn't completed yet, has been really poorly done.
Well, it's because all he does is disagree with his partners in public, like they didn't know it was coming, even though he does it every time. And they don't talk about this in the car on the way to the show.
I love Taz on commentary. I know he only does it for his guys' matches. He doesn't work ringside. He does commentary. But I wish he did more commentary. He was really good here.
Taz, that's another thing we're going to discuss is their announce crew. But yeah, Taz not only should be one of the Dynamite announcers instead of the fucking sock-faced moron, but if they had made him an announcer instead of making him the leader of a gang that couldn't shoot straight, he would still have some credibility from being Taz. But now, for the past however many months, he's just been a guy that comes out and leads a bunch of guys that can't grab their ass with both hands. So they've diminished him just by his allegiances with these guys that have not done anything right and can't win anything. But their announce crew, I'm wanting next year a pay-per-view with just the announcers, because that's where all the fucking name talent is.